In 2013, race, discrimination, and prejudice still exist in our country. This most recently manifested in the cases of Oscar Grant and Trayvon Martin. One Bay Area woman who believes that we can help turn this situation around through film and dialogue is Shakti Butler. We welcome Shakti, the founder of World Trust. Her new film, though, is cracking the codes. Let's first take a look.
White boy who walks in the room and is animated and moving around and maybe even a little cheeky is smart. And isn't he smart? Isn't he cheeky? He's almost looked at as, well, boys will be boys. A boy of color, especially an African-American boy who walks in the room exhibiting the same behavior, walks in and it's, I might need to keep an eye on him. We are afraid of these young boys. And I'm talking young boys, 4 years old and above. And that instead of the teacher looking at him or herself and saying, what is going on with me? That this same behavior creates fear in me instead of admiration. We pathologize the boy of color.
So you get to school and there's a box for you. And that box says you rap, you're an athlete, you're slightly to highly misbehaved, you're not involved or into your education that much, you sell and or use drugs. That's the box that you're accepted in. And in order to play ball, no pun intended, that's how you interact with yourself, your own identity, and this is how you're cool. But you feel like the box that it traps you in is you feel like to be healthier, to be in a more sound mind state, to think and know and come from a place of foundation in your life is something that you have to be ashamed of and you have to denounce. It can drive you crazy.
Wow, you just ripped that Band-Aid off. You go right to it. That's really powerful. Yeah. Did you plan that or did it happen? How did it come about?
Well, I'd like to say I planned it. Yeah. That was my intention, was to interview people who have a lot of knowledge about the dynamics of race. And what we wanted to do was to be able to provide a frame that encourages people to have a more substantial conversation about race. That's not just about, am I a good person, but really understands that racial inequity is a part of a larger system. And that system has internal components and external components that are moved by power and economics, but they're embedded in history and culture and identity.
So the recent cases we talked about, they get people talking, but then out of sight, out of mind until the next one.
Exactly.
Where do you think the national conversation is at right now?
I think the national conversation tends to be really superficial because people don't have the tools to actually be able to analyze what's happening. As I said just before, we tend to keep it at the level of, am I a good person? Oh, I'm not a racist. But in fact, there are many, many factors that perpetuate a system, and that is the job of the system, is to perpetuate itself. So if we can't see what's going on, if we can't understand what's going on, how can we address it? And so film allows us to have the opportunity to hear through people's stories the multiple ways that we walk through the world.
And what's leading you to take the charge in such a way?
Well, I don't know that I'm taking the charge by myself, but my life really is what has me passionate about what does it mean to make a world that works for everyone, a place where everyone can thrive. And I know that we have very different lived experiences. I am a very light-skinned African-American woman, and I can walk into a restaurant with one of my darker-skinned sisters, and there is a reaction that happens because I'm with someone else who doesn't look like me, and people make assumptions about who she is. And depending upon where you are in terms of your geographical location, that will be more pronounced. If we can understand these other ways that people walk through the world, the experiences of Ice Life and other young black boys, then we might be able to create a world where we can actually see each other. We can actually experience the greatness that lives in all people, rather than dismissing chunks of folks because they don't look like us.
And after hearing you, I feel like I'm doing things wrong because my sons are black or half black, and so I say, you can't do this, you need to say that, you need to watch for that, instead of what is described And your philosophy is a transformative learning by example, by bringing it to your day-to-day.
Right, right.
Could you explain how you do this?
Well, I do this by, when we have people come and they watch the film and they engage in meaningful dialogue, we really are after that transformative learning that speaks to the embedded assumptions that we all have about how the world actually works. Those embedded assumptions need to be revealed, and we do that through story. So that what you just described with your sons and you're coaching them in how to be in the world is an internal drive, right? But there are also structural barriers that are in the way. How do you hold both of those things? And I think what we are wanting is people to ask new questions, to be able to see from multiple perspectives, to be more thoughtful and reflective about what's going on, really.
In your film, is there a person we should really pay attention to, or a character that you just think is that aha moment that's just really new and really different and really challenging?
Well, you know, my husband's a filmmaker, and God bless him, he's the one that has supported me, but I make films with lots of characters. I think we need critical mass. Lots and lots of stories, because there's going to be a story that appeals to you. That is your doorway into transformation. Or there may be a story that makes me push away. That's still a doorway to transformation, because I'm beginning to question those embedded assumptions. So we have people come in, they see film, they talk to each other, and they engage in an iterative process that consists of storytelling, reflection, analyzing, experiencing more fully how this system actually works and informs our institutions and our policies and our laws.
Do you think, looking back, that the Trayvon Martin and Oscar Grant cases have actually laid a better foundation for the absorption of your material?
Absolutely.
Of people opening their eyes?
Absolutely. I clearly see, after doing this for a very long time, that the edges are softening, that there are people who really want to know how to talk about something that we've not really been allowed to talk about.
Well, let's get people to watch. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
joining us, Shakti.